Hi guys, I'm going to give you guys just a little quick rundown of what you're going to see on the math portion of the ACT. So what I want to show you is a couple of tips and tricks of what to kind of expect or what to do to make this test go more efficiently for you. The math portion of the test is 45 questions in 50 minutes. Okay, so that basically is giving you about a minute per question to complete. So here are a few of your quick little tricks that might help you. The first 20 questions are pretty straightforward. So those are generally your pre-algebra questions. They're generally asking you something about adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. Do you really understand the basics of math? So from there, you want to try to move efficiently through those first 20 questions. As you progress, the test is going to get harder. Okay, you're going to move from pre-algebra to algebra. There'll be geometry, and then eventually you'll get into some trigonometry and potentially pre-calculus questions. So your second trick is to plug in the numbers that work and then potentially move backwards using algebra. It is a multiple choice question test, so use those strategies to help you eliminate possible answers. You also might want to look into memorizing some different formulas. They don't give you anything, so if you know your linear algebra stuff, so y equals x plus b, know your exponential rules. You're going to want to know some basic areas and volumes of probably squares and circles and triangles. Those are things you want to know going in. This fourth tip is a good one. Okay, if you find that you are taking too long on a question, I would skip it. You can flag a question and then come back to it. Okay, so if there's maybe a lot of words and it's taking a long time to siphon through all of the stuff that they're giving to you, you might flag it, skip it, go to one that's a little bit easier and faster for you to solve. Okay, you can do some estimating. Of course, if you don't have a calculator, but you should have a calculator. So this piece right here, this is really important. Make sure that when you do take your ACT, that you get to have a calculator, okay? So everybody is allowed to use a TI-84 graphing calculator, okay? These are other possible calculators that you can use, but if you are efficient at using a TI-84 calculator, you can use that. If you're more efficient at using something that you have that is allowed by the ACT calculator, then you can use those. There are just a few that are not allowed, and those are basically calculators that will solve stuff for you. But ask a math teacher if you're unsure, if you have a calculator that may or may not work. So do make sure you have a calculator for sure. I just wanted to quickly show you kind of what the platform of this looks like. There's a ton of stuff on this ACT website that shows you what this will look like. Okay, so it has this basic platform. It gives you this time up in the top. Once you hit next, your clock starts to tick. Okay, so you have 50 minutes to complete these 45 questions. Okay, so it just kind of goes through. You pick an answer. If you are unsure, you can flag a question. It will take you back to this later on. Okay, so you can scroll, make sure you read all of the information. Okay, choose your best guess or best answer, and then progress. Make sure you do answer every single question. Things that you might have questions about are like what kind of topics are on the ACT as far as math is concerned. Okay, the first 20 to 25% is pre-algebra. This is stuff that you learned in middle school math. Okay, so those things are your basic operations, whole numbers, fractions, and decimals. There's a lot of ratios and proportions, percentages, order of operations, your PEMDAS. Okay, make sure you know how to find the median and the mode and the mean of all these things. Okay, the next slightly more challenging part is elementary algebra. Okay, so it's kind of your math Math 1 stuff. Okay, elementary algebra consists of your linear equations, inequalities, your systems of equations, your exponents and your square root rules, a little bit of polynomials and factoring. Okay, we spend a ton of time factoring quadratics. That stuff is on there. Okay, the next 15 to 20% is over intermediate algebra. Okay, intermediate algebra is kind of Math 2 topics. So you're looking at quadratics, you're looking at rational expressions, stuff that has fractions with an x in the denominator. Radicals are square roots, functions and their different notations, so plugging in an x value, simplifying that, and some absolute values. The next little portion is geometry, so coordinate geometry, so that's your next 15 to 20%. So coordinate geometry consists of finding the slope between 2 points, the distance between 2 points, the midpoint between 2 points, the ability to graph lines and quadratic parabolas, and then just interpreting some graphs. Okay, the last section of geometry is more plane geometry, so shapes. Okay, do you know how to find angles? Specifically within different shapes, so triangles and polygons, so like squares and quadrilaterals. There's stuff with circles, chords, and arcs, so that finding the area of a circle, finding the circumference of a circle. An arc is an arc length, the distance of just a little segment of the circle. Okay, there's also area, perimeter, and volume of those different shapes. Okay, they also start talking about right triangle trig, 30, 60, 90s, 45, 45. That leads you directly into trigonometry, so the study of triangles. Okay, we spent time talking about SOHCAHTOA, so sine, cosine, and tangent. That's all right triangle trig, a little Pythagorean theorem. And then we have some basic trig ideas. Eventually, if you get to pre-calc, you get to talk about radian measures and different trig equations and identities. Okay, so if you are someone who wants to study this stuff specifically and get a little extra help, the ACT website has a ton of good stuff, and they'll even do tutoring specifically on different stuff. But here's a bunch of practice tests that you can take for each individual test. Okay, so if you're somebody who wants to get a high score, if you're looking for scholarships and stuff like that, this is a great resource for you to use. Okay, so today we're focusing specifically on the math. Okay, so hopefully you can take this little 7-question Math 1 quiz and see how you do. Okay, this gives you a little insight of what your ACT potentially will look like.